शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। यत्परं ब्रह्म सर्वात्मा विश्वस्यायतनं महत् सूक्ष्मात् सूक्ष्मतरं नित्यं तत्त्वमेव त्वमेव तत् जाग्रत् स्वप्न सुषुप्त्यादि प्रपञ्चं यत् प्रकाशते तद्ब्रह्माहमिति ज्ञात्वा सर्वबन्धैः प्रमुच्यते। त्रिषु धामसु यद्भोग्यं भोक्ता भोगश्च यद्भवेत् तेभ्यो विलक्षणः साक्षी चिन्मात्रोऽहं सदाशिवः मय्येव सकलं जातं मयि सर्वं प्रतिष्ठितं मयि सर्वं लयं याति तद्ब्रह्माद्वयमस्म्यहम् अणोरणीयानहमेव तद्वन्महानहं विश्वमहं विचित्रम् पुरातनोऽहं पुरुषोऽहमीशो हिरण्मयोऽहं शिवरूपमस्मि अपाणिपादोऽहमचिन्त्यशक्तिः पश्याम्यचक्षुः सशृणोम्यकर्णः अहं विजानामि विविक्तरूपो न चास्ति वेत्ता मम चित्सदाहम् वेदैरनेकैरहमेव वेद्यो वेदान्तकृद्वेदविदेव चाहम् न पुण्यपापे मम नास्ति नाशो न जन्म देहेन्द्रियबुद्धिरस्ति न भूमिरापो न च वह्निरस्ति न चानिलो मेऽस्ति न चाम्बरं च एवं विदित्वा परमात्मरूपं गुहाशयं निष्कलमद्वितीयम् समस्तसाक्षिं सदसद्विहीनं प्रयाति शुद्धं परमात्मरूपम् यः शतरुद्रीयमधीते सोऽग्निपूतो भवति सुरापानात् पूतो भवति ब्रह्महत्यात् पूतो भवति कृत्यात् पूतो भवति तस्मादविमुक्तमाश्रितो भवति अत्याश्रमी सर्वदा सकृद्वा जपेत् अनेन ज्ञानमाप्नोति संसारार्णवनाशनम् तस्मादेवं विदित्वैनं कैवल्यं फलमश्नुत इति।
The word Sakshi is translated in English as witness. The word is derived in Sanskrit from what is directly perceiving. Sakshat ikshate. Sadhanena vina. That means without any instrument. That which is directly perceiving, that is the etymological meaning of the word Sakshi. So, we said that the best example for Sakshi in terms of what we can understand from terrestrial standpoint is that of sun. The sun is just like that, existing with its own power. It is as though seeing everything, but whatever is happening, whether it is in this planet or anywhere else, has no impact upon the sun. But whatever is happening in this planet is all happening because of the power of the sun. having made everything possible by its mere existence. So what does actually sun do? From the sun's standpoint, it really does nothing. It is just existing. And its mere existence is as though it is just viewing as it is. So whatever is happening here, all that is happening is because of the power of the sun, but none of it has any impact upon the sun. So having done everything, being a neutral witness to whatever is happening is called as Sakshi. So in the mantra 18, when he says that Tebhyo Vilakshana Sakshi, he is giving it with reference to what is given in the first line, that is Trishu Dhamasu Yad Bhogyam Bhoktha Bhogascha Yad Bhavet. Whatever be the experience that you undergo in the three cities, in the three states, that is in the waking, dream and deep sleep. In all these three states, which is conditioned consciousness, it's called as a realm of experience. And the moment we say experience, the instrument of experience, which is the subtle body, also comes in there. So there is a subject-object relationship. We said even in the deep sleep, though there is no a strict subject-object relationship, it can be still considered as a conditioned consciousness, in the sense the deep sleeper or the prajna is the subject, and the blankness that he is as though looking at is the object. In that sense, it is not, there is no subject-object relationship like a waker or dreamer, but it still comes under the conditioned consciousness. All these three have nothing to do with me. I am the real self. So here, therefore, when he talks about Brahman as the Samasta Saksham, that which is within you, which is actually activating everything, which is making everything possible inside, without which no experience is possible, the mere existence of which activates everything, having done everything, it is just a neutral witness observing everything. It has no direct participation in anything. Now the question was raised with reference to how it applies at the level of the Supreme Lord. Now you have to understand exactly the position of Brahman, which is with reference to the individual. It is the same with reference to the totality or the universe also. In the last portion of the first topic of chapter 9, as you know, the topics are divided by our Swamiji for convenient study. So the first topic of 9th chapter is one of the subtlest portions of Gita, first 10 verses of chapter 9. Last few verses there, 7 to 10 I think, particularly 8, 9 and 10. They talk about the relationship between Brahman and Prakriti. So what we have covered here in mantras 14 etc., in a different way he says there. There he says how Maya Adhyakshena Prakritihi Suyate Sacharacharam. And previous to that in mantra 8 he says Prakritim Swam Avashtabhya. Animating my own Prakriti, I manifest myself. So therefore, the whole idea of the great activities like creation, dissolution, etc. is attributed by animation of Prakriti or Maya. Okay. Step by step he says that, and the final 10th verse he says, Maya Adhyakshena Prakritihi Suyate Sacharacharam. It is by me presiding over, the Prakriti does everything. So as such, what is presiding over? It is exactly like the role of a president. You can take the President of India as a case in this example. He is the constitutional head. It is probably with his signature everything will be done. But as such, what really power he has? You take in the context of the example, he doesn't have any power. All the power rests with the cabinet. It is with the Prime Minister. It is with the cabinet of ministers. Whatever the cabinet of ministers approves, they will send the file to him and he has to sign it. But ultimately, who is the authorized signatory? It is the president. So like that he says, it is the Prakriti that does everything. But that Prakriti is not independent by itself. Maya Adhyakshena. I am the presiding deity over that Prakriti. I am the president. So what do? I do nothing. I do nothing. So therefore, from the point of view of the totality also, having animated the Prakriti, having done everything with reference to creation, dissolution, whatever be the activities that you can conceive of, all that is done by me animating my Prakriti, but what do I actually do? I really do nothing. This is a very clear indication as to that Sakshi Bhava is maintained at the level of the Supreme Lord Ishvara. That is in fact even more Ashcharya, even more inspiring. Imagine the whole activity in the world is as though ordained and controlled and done everything by him, and yet he takes the stance that I do nothing. So, in terms of Vedanta, we say that with reference to the Sthiti, Srishti, Sthiti and Samhara, that is creation, dissolution and this maintenance. Apart from that, we say that Ishvara is the bestower of the fruit of action, the karma paladata. There also is that he has absolutely no direct participation in giving some fruit to one and giving other fruit to anybody else. He just only maintains that the law of karma is functioning, and based on the law of karma, each and every fruit goes to that particular person. So it is, in whichever angle you look at it, it is absolutely clear that having done everything, he just stands as a neutral witness. But this neutral witness state of the Supreme Lord should not be taken as a very indifferent attitude. It is not that he is without any compassion or without any sort of relationship with the individual or nothing like that. It is not like a stoic statue who just goes by the letter of the law. And the lives of all great masters and sages and saints also prove this point. So how do we then reconcile this? See, if you take the Srishti, Sthiti and Samhara and all the happenings that is happening in the world, it seems to follow a particular order. It seems to follow a particular pattern. And this pattern seems to be of a very conducive nature for each and everyone concerned. Each and every aspect of the elements, the Pancha Mahabhutas, each of them are so powerful by themselves. Earth is very powerful. We know what happens when an earthquake happens for a few seconds. But it doesn't happen every time earthquake or nothing happens. It is once in a while sort of a reminder comes to us. But earth is very powerful. Water is very powerful. One tsunami comes, we know what it is, destruction it is. We know the power of wind. We know the power of sun. We know the power of fire. Everything we know the power. But each of them is kept under a perfect control and not one dominating the other. Like that it is maintained. Similarly, the relationship between the individual and the Prakriti, the elements, they are maintained. Not only for human being, for each and every being, whatever is to be required at any point of time, it is as though provided. Even in the deepest of ocean, there is food for the fish. Even in the densest of jungles or in the desert or anywhere, it is there. There seems to be a perfect order in which everything is catered to. And as far as the human beings are concerned, he has given us the law by which everything is absolutely maintained. He has given us the opportunities and satsang and everything by which the evolution is possible also, which is only possible for a human being. And despite that, if you deviate, he gives us knocks and shocks to make us come back to the path. If it is too much, he gives you certain hard punishments, which is like a bitter dose for you to again swallow and then come back. So if you look at all these things, it seems that as though everything is designed for us to only move forward. Despite that, if you staunchly go by your ego and you don't follow any of the rules or regulations or the dharmic way of life, the rhythm that is there, and then he says you will be cast to hell. But again, that is not a eternal hell or something. Again, there will be chance. So when we look at this, it seems that from a point of view of relationship, if we see, it is as though he wants the individual to come back to its original state only. For that only everything is designed. Despite that, like an adamant child, if you want something else, that is also provided. But probably what is he wanting to give to us is something very sacred, very infinite. I mean, if you want finite fruits, that is given to you. That is also according to the law. But what is really wanting to be given to you is that infinite. So therefore, he makes every possible way to make you inch towards that perfection only. So therefore, you look at it like this, that supreme reality or Lord is not a very unconcerned, indifferent witness. It is a witness, no doubt. He is making sure everybody gets their fruit of action according to their fruits only. But at the same time, it is a person with whom the individual can relate to, who has a compassion. That is why the Tattva of Ishvara is also called as Kripalu. Kripa means a person of compassion. Okay. Now, if you are able to understand the Tattva at the Ishvara this level, then what question Sudhakar Kabra asked with reference to what happens at the Avatara level is easily understandable. So this is the position. The position of, so when Krishna or Rama come as Avatar, we believe that they are operating on the level of the Ishvara only. Ishvara coming in human form. That is the Avatara. So even as that person in the form of Krishna, he maintains the same stance. That is when you will appreciate the verses in Gita like Name Dveshyasti Na Priyaha. I have nobody who is dear, who is likable to me or detestable to me. I hate nobody, I love nobody. Like that it says. But then he goes on to say later also in 12th chapter, Yo me bhakta same priyaha. That bhakta is indeed very dear to me. That bhakta is indeed very dear to me. In fact, I and my that jnani and I are one and the same. Like that he seems to say. It's a very interesting, not a contradiction or dichotomy, but it's interesting study. But you have to clearly keep the tattva in mind, that the tattva of Lord or the Ishvara is actually absolute witness only, and he has no personal or preferential attachment to any of the case, any of the individual for that matter. But then how do we reconcile? See, the entire Mahabharata war, if you look at it objectively, it was Krishna who made everything happen there. Okay. Each and every, probably the great hero of the Kaurava side was killed in the most, within quotes I am saying, adharmic way, as per the rules of the war. Okay. And even here, in this side, Abhimanyu was also killed that way. So, overall, the whole war was not very dharmic as we see in the war of Ramayana. That yuga was different and this yuga is different. Okay. But Krishna does not directly participate in the war. Just before the war, even as the Lord is close to Pandavas in terms of their friendship, in terms of their relationship, when both Arjuna and Duryodhana approach him, he is actually making himself available for both. And he says, whatever you want, you can choose. Arjuna chooses Krishna without any weapons or without his participation directly in the war as a warrior. And Duryodhana chooses the army, which is the Yadava army, totally on his side with the commander-in-chief, everybody, Kritavarma, and everybody is on the other side. So this indicates the Samabuddhi of the Ishvara, even as he has certain people who are actually wishing not welfare of Krishna. There the equality is shown. But then the question arises as to what made Duryodhana choose that and what made Arjuna choose this. That is where you have to revise chapter 4 verse 12, very important verse. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tams tateva bhajamyaham. Mama vartman vartante manushya partha sarvashaha. See, though the absolute entity is a neutral witness and it is making you the receiver of fruit of action, who gets the fruit of action? It is only the Karta who gets the fruit of action. Okay? Karta gets the karma phala. And who is this Karta? Karta is the individual as long as he claims the Kartritva Bhavana. Kartritva Bhavana is the egoistic notion that I am doing this. So the moment you take the notion that I am doing this, the fruit is going to accrue to you. If it is a punya karma, you will get a punya fruit. If it is a papa karma, you will get the papa fruit according to your action. But since you have put the signature that I am doing this action, that is going to come back to you. So at various places it is said, if you take out that Kartritva Bhavana and act, that fruit of action is not going to come to you. Okay? This is the general formula. Now it is another matter who in which stage can really practice this. But even out of inspiration at the level that we are, if you are able to even perform any inspired action by absolute dissolution of ego, for example, I am saying in deep sleep, suppose you hit another person, that's not hitting because you are not acting. You just turn aside in deep sleep and your hand hits the face of the other person who is sleeping next to you, and he may get hurt also. That has nothing to do with any karma that is going to accrue to you because you have not performed any action. Action is there only when a conscious entity performs it. So that will not come under karma at all. Right. So like this, if you are able to consciously take out that egoistic attitude while acting, then there is no fruit of action accruing for you. Now if you are able to relate this with reference to the attitude of surrender, with reference to the attitude of bhakti of a bhakta, who he was referring to as the, in the example, ye yatha mam prapadyante means in whichever way the people approach me, I satisfy them in that way, he says. If a person comes to me with reference to his worldly desires, I cater to him in that way. If a person comes to me in form of wanting knowledge, I cater to him in that way. If a person is wanting moksha and he approaches me, I grant him that. All this is very clearly said. So therefore, if a person has absolutely completely surrendered unto him, that means where his ego is zero. I am taking this extreme example only to understand the concept. Then we will be able to understand at the relative level. So if a person has absolutely surrendered his self to that supreme self, then what happens? This self is absorbed into him. So therefore whatever activities is done through him, it is as though done by the Lord himself. In this context, you remember the most important verse of Gita, that ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nityabhyuktanam yoga kshemam vahamyam. He says, I promise to take care of your yoga and kshema. But what is the condition? Ananyas chintayanto mam. That Ananya Chinta means absolutely no other thought. 100%. So if a person, so we have the examples of somebody like Namadev or whoever is great souls who have lived in flesh and bone at various points of time at various geographical locations. We see that Panduranga is helping him, or in Srirangam, Lord Ranganatha is helping him, Lord Shiva is coming and helping somebody, as though these stories are given, I would say, history. This is because to the extent that their ego is dissolved, they are drawing the power of the infinite from the Lord as it were. So in that sense also, he remains absolutely a neutral witness only. It is just that his power is drawn. That's about all. Now, if you are able to relate it to then, if you are able to bring it down to the relative level, to the extent that you do bhakti, to that extent is the relationship with him. You do bhakti up to 25%, your surrender is up to 25%. To that extent you see them, he is probably speaking to you, or he is able to take care of you in that sense. If you are able to do 50%, to that extent your relationship with him is much more. 75% to that extent, full means full. So even if you look at it this way, the absolute Sakshi or the witness level of the Supreme Self does not change from the point of view of the Supreme Lord also. But this is what we discuss deviant from what is given here, because in the mantra what he is talking about is, you should never forget the thought flow that is given here. 15, 16, 17, 18. In 16 he talked about the Upadesha Vakya Tattvameva Tvameva Tat. He is giving that advice that you are the self. Then he says how to remove the bondage. And in the 18 he says Tat Brahmad Vayam Asmyaham. Make that practice to say that I am that Brahman. So there is a abhyasa here, like that it is. And then the culmination comes in the next verse. So in this, what we have to understand is, how does this removing ourselves from the bondage happen? It is by practicing objectivity. That objectivity is to say that I am the subject, not the object. Everything else apart from me is the object. Now, it is very clear that, as we said in the last class, to say that this mobile phone is an object, or my bag is an object, I am different from it. It is easy to understand there. But finally, that understanding must culminate in, even my body, mind and intellect are not the real subject. I am different. So, Tebhyo Vilakshana Sakshi has to be understood at the individual level, that the Supreme Self or consciousness within us is functioning in the same way, as a neutral witness, and I am that neutral witness. I am not this body, mind, intellect. Therefore, to practice this objectivity, to practice this Jnana Yoga, no, of course it is subtle, of course it is difficult in the beginning, but the effect of this is actually very galloping. It is very fast, and the results are very, fast accruing here. What do we need to practice this? Actually, nothing. None of the sadhana that we need to do in a very hard way. What is being provided by the world always is the pairs of opposites. It is there for us. Heat and cold is always there for us. Mana and apamana, honor and dishonor is always there for us. Ye sukha or dukkha is always there for us. Your favorite team wins, it's a sukha. Your favorite team loses, it's a dukkha. Or your friend is in a hospital, that's a dukkha. Or your friend has come back from hospital, it's a sukha. Not just that, even what is being cooked in your house, whether it is palatable for you or not palatable for you. If it has little more salt, it is not easily palatable. So that is not liked by you. Again, if it is all good, then it is palatable for you. In each of these things, when it hits you, when you encounter these things, you say that this is for my body, not for me. I am different. So this is a practice. The practice is that you are distancing yourself from the experiences. What he says is Trishu Dhamasuyat Bhogyam Bhokta Bhogasched Bhok. That experience is actually different. I am different. This is a stance, and it is not obviously a mechanical repetition. That feeling with which you are able to distance yourself. Now, actually in practice, what Swamiji has said many times, even in public lecture it is said, it is not possible to practice this at the level that or stage that we are, because our attachment to body, because of the Punascha Janmantara Karma Yoga, what he has said in 14 mantra is very, very powerful. So it really doesn't go away that easily. We may attend a Vedanta class or we may do our morning study, but most of the time our thought process is centered around this. It doesn't really come to the remembrance and our anusandhan, but it is possible. It's possible by vairagya and practice, it is possible, but at the present stage it is difficult. So how is objectivity to be practiced? He says, start with the most external thing to you. It is, in fact, we are doing it in a way that if you calculate what is your relationship with reference to animals, you are quite objective. Here also we don't know, sometimes with a pet you may get involved, but I am talking about generally the animals. You know that how they behave, you know how to maintain a safe relationship with them. Whether it is a zebra, then you may go near, or a rabbit, or if it is a cobra which is poisonous, you may not go near. But the admiration for zebra and cobra, both are there. You like them both. I mean, you are fascinated by both. You understand them for what their worth is. You have no imposition of your personality upon them. It is clear in case of animals. So this is where we understand how we even practice. But this is the starting point. Then you come to all other areas where you have no direct connection. We get extremely agitated. In Calcutta, we know that something happens in Cuba or in South America, they will hold a rally here, isn't it? They will stop the whole day's work. They are so involved in it. Whether it is Stalin or Che Guevara, they have a deep connection, deep emotional bond with them. Now, what is happening in your own city, what is the work happening, they are not concerned about that. They are concerned about what is happening in Brazil or Argentina football matches there. You can see the clash that is happening in Salt Lake, in the stadium itself, like a Mohan Bagan East Bengal thing. Like that it happens when on seeing the TV also. So, okay, if there's a football match, see it, but what is the direct connection for you there? Just enjoy the match, then switch it off. It doesn't happen there. So, the next level of objectivity is to be practicing at there, where you have no really direct connection. It's just a matter of entertainment. But when it comes to movies, or particularly TV serials, the connection is even more stronger. The crying inside makes you cry also here, or you sometimes lose. There are some people who move and go towards the TV unconsciously. Have you seen that? When the fight is happening, they go towards the TV. So much, and in our Tamil Nadu there was a great hero called MGR. He was a chief minister also, mentor of Jayalalitha. His fan following was one of the greatest. He was more than Rajinikanth in his time. When he used to fight, let us say, in the screen, if the villain comes from behind, they will shout, "Hey, turn back," they will say. They are cautioning him that actually. I have seen myself, and this happens as experience. It is our involvement with the movie there. So, what is the practical aspect of it? In fact, when you are encouraging and living with that, the eternal sadness and manipulation and tragedy of the serial, you are actually, by involvement of your mind, you are making it part of your system. So objectivity is to just watch it as it is and then shut off from your mind. This is called as objectivity. So these are all things not connected to us. It is an imaginary story, but the deep impact of it you can carry for long. Then comes where you are directly probably involved with, but in outer circles, maybe how you deal with your maidservant or your driver, their behaviors affect us. The boss or the employee in your office, he may affect you. Your customers or client, they may affect you. Because our mind is not able to view them as object, the subject gets involved in the object there. Then comes from your close circles, maybe your next family, then comes your own family, your wife, your child. There it is very, very difficult because your reflection and you are seeing them as though yourself only. So if the son doesn't get a good mark, then the father is affected. More so in case of father, you see that he sees his reflection in the son. Son's success is his success. Son's failure is his failure. This is a deep attachment with reference to the family. Of course, as we have said, these are all different grades. Here the attachment is much more. So the objectivity to be practiced is more difficult. Then comes to see your own thoughts and mind. It is a very tough ask. To view yourself as separate. Even as we are given 5 minutes of commentary in the meditation and we try to keep our mind vacant of all thoughts and try to see what it is there, how difficult it is. Our thoughts keep on coming and sort of attacking us all the time. And where do they come from? What is the power that is generating them? It is our attachment that is pulling them. It is a lot of stock that we have. It is coming out again and again. Therefore, to say that all this belongs to my intellect, all this belongs to my mind, all this belongs to my body, I am different from it, is the real sadhana. So Sakshi as a concept in Vedanta is talked about both as a state and a practice. State is the state of absolute Sakshi, which is the state of Brahman. A practice is even as somebody comes and, let's say, abuses you, or somebody comes and praises you to the high sky. There, if you are able to maintain a equilibrium, say that their praise is not for me, it is for intellect, that's about all. So like that, if you are able to distance yourself in and through the experience, then we are trying to practice this Sakshi. So, by practicing Sakshi Bhavana, actually we are going one step closer to the Brahman inside. Another practical angle which Swamiji has suggested is that why does our involvement get very big? It is because of our egoistic view of ourselves, nothing else. See, anything that is viewed close to us seems very big. Suppose I hold the book like this, there is no clarity because this book covers everything. Similarly, thought of us, thought of me, myself, I am this, covers us so much big that I am not really able to see anything beyond my ego. So therefore, what is objectivity? So suppose I say you keep the book at a distance, then you are able to have some clarity. Similarly, if you are able to keep your ego at a distance, you will be able to have some clarity about it. How to keep that at a distance? Only when it is at a distance, it grows small, as it were. Your perception of it is small. If you keep it close, it is very big. Therefore, he says, there are two angles to it. One is called as a vertical view. Another is called as a horizontal view. In vertical view, you view, see, suppose you get sick for few days and a person is overall very affected by it and he makes a big fuss out of it and he expects everybody to sit around him and cater to him and pamper him. This is because of his misunderstanding, or let us say he's operating like a child. Now imagine your own lifetime. You have lived 30, 40 or 50 years. In this 50 years, how many times have you really got sick? On an average, you will see that once or twice a year. That's about all. And each time the sickness on an average will last for a day. That's all it is. So if you look at it this way, in 1 year it's 1 day or 2 days. In 30 years it's 30 days, not even a month, like that it is. But when you look at it only from that day's point of view, it is totally covered. Only I am sick and you make a big issue out of it. But you look at it from the point of view of even your own total life, which you have passed through in this lifetime, it is actually nothing. So always look at it from the totality point of view. This is with reference to time. With reference to space is horizontal point of view. In the same example of you being sick, look at probably how many persons are sick in Calcutta today. Out of 1.2 or 1.3 crore of people here, many may be sick or maybe worse than you. Even average you take 1,000. What is 1 in 1,000? I'm just 1,000 is a low figure. I'm just saying 1,000. Or you take the whole population of India, or you take the whole population of the world, 1 in 10,000, or 1 like that it is. It is absolutely nothing. So you go into insignificance the moment you have the picture of totality. So this is the practical way. To say that I am Brahman, I am not this body, mind, intellect is the direct and most effective way, but it is rather difficult. But slowly, if we are able to raise our thought towards the totality in whichever way that we are able to, this is a temporary phenomenon, temporary technique that he has given. So each and every time anything that affects you, you always have a bigger picture or a total picture. You will be always, not complaining about it. This is a practical way of doing it. So the mantra for that is, even this shall pass away. Anything and everything that comes to us does not really stand. In fact, unless otherwise you hold on to it for a longer time, it really doesn't stay. Because that's the nature. A happiness has to go and sorrow has to come is the law of nature. Sukha and dukkha have to come, just like summer and winter have to come. So this is the flow that is there. So you just take one step backward and see the procession go by. Even this shall pass away is the ultimate truth. It is going to go. It is just that at that point of time it seems very big and very uncontrollable. It is not so. Just take that stance of viewing from totality. It actually at that point itself it becomes small and it is on the way out, like that it is. Tebhyo vilakshana sakshi. Then he says chinmatra. Chinmatra means matra alone. Chit matra, pure consciousness. A positive assertion. What is it? I am Sakshi. It is pure consciousness inside. All other states that he has talked about so far, maximum Kaivalya Upanishad deals with waking, dream and deep sleep in a big way. We are told that Mandukya Upanishad deals with it, but we have not directly studied it. But we see how it has been dealt in detail here. And all these three states are conditioned consciousness. I, who is a Sakshi of that, is Chinmatra. Chinmatra means pure consciousness, only Chit. And then Sadashiva. Sadashiva refers to the pure auspicious nature of the self. It is what it means is, what to say, it is worth achieving. That is worth achieving. That is Sadashiva.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
So while you are practicing the field of Sakshi,
Yeah.
the challenge becomes that you should perform a karma at the best.
Right.
So then the challenge becomes, becomes very difficult that you start feeling like a Sakshi and you do the karma at the
Actually, this how it is practiced at the karma yoga level is that what we practice at the jnana yoga level is that I am not this body, mind and intellect, I am the self. That is why I said it is probably at an introverted level, at a higher level. But as far as karma is concerned, the starting point is that you do the karma and say this fruit is not for me. So that is the way to do it. So you are not at the level where you can distance yourself from the past because your desires is pushing you into action. Therefore, you are bound to do the action. The minimum stage, minimum practice that we can try there is that the fruit is anyway going to yield that result, but I have nothing to do with the result. I am not eyeing the result. So this is the way that a karma yogi distances, or he makes himself separate from the effects of the fruit of action. But rather interesting, the effect of both is the same. A jnana yogi saying that I am not the body, mind and intellect, I am the self, or a karma yogi saying that these results are not for me, both are correct. As far as the adhikari is concerned, you will get the same effect only. So therefore, it then trains you to go to further extent where you will probably not just renounce the fruit of action, you will renounce the action itself and go to the higher stage where you can practice this jnana yoga easily. So it is not that we are disadvantaged at a lower level, the practice is different. Therefore, in order to achieve that distance from the pair of opposite, you have to do hard karma. That's about all. Here, each and every thought is a very powerful thing. So it is like a well set batsman who is able to hit 6 very effortlessly in every ball. His runs are getting scored faster. His evolution is faster. But a person who runs very hard for a single or 2 runs, he is also evolving. But he has to do that hard work. He is not as efficient as a Sehwag who can, even the best of the bowlers with his correct placement and the right timing, he can send it for a 6. So jnana yoga is like that sixer, but karma yoga is like this thing. But it is a very safe path. You will be a 6. If a person who is not at the level of Sehwag, he attempts for 6, he will be getting out also. So therefore, karma yoga is very, very safe option, and the effect you will get the same also.
So if somebody relinquishes the kartritva bhavana, is the bhoktitva bhavana automatically relinquished?
Automatically. Yes, as it is. We are talking here about in the action. See, when does the kartritva bhavana come? Kartritva bhavana, discussion of it comes only while it is in action. We talk about bhoktritva bhavana in terms of enjoyment, in terms of experience. So usually this is associated with the organs of action, and this is associated with the organs of perception, not just perception, even at the mental level, etc. But the point here is with reference to the fruit of action. So the fruit of action comes only for a person who does the action. So the whole discussion is about the kartritva bhavana only here.
But you said once that if you surrender completely, finally, then you are only an instrument in the hands of God. You are performing action as per His will.
Right.
Now you are performing an action. There has to be some fruit coming out of action. Then who is the bhoktitva for that fruit?
Yeah. So that means he is not the bhokta. The individual is not the bhokta. Whoever is the bhokta is the bhokta. Therefore, this individual who actually goes through these various stages and processes, how the Purusha within him acts in different ways, it is given in verse 23 of chapter 13. He says, by the type of actions that you do, he says, Upadrashta, Anumanta, cha Bharta, Bhokta, Maheshwaraha. The Supreme Self only says, I am the Bhokta. Like in the form of Lord, he says, I am the enjoyer of all sacrifices. Bhoktaram Yajnatapasam. It is in the same way. The individual is the combination of the spirit and matter. So as long as the spirit which is functioning through the matter, he is called as the jiva. That jiva, if it has surrendered completely unto the Supreme Self, at that stage of action, whatever action, see, as I said, the results of the action accrue to a person only when he does the action. Now, when he doesn't do any action, where is the result itself being talked about? So, what is the action that he is doing as it is? All that is being done, whoever is doing that action. Suppose if they say, Yogakshemam Mahamyaham, if he does the action, he only enjoys the results of that action also. Therefore, in Bhagavat and various other places, he says, by looking at the welfare of my devotee, I myself, I am very satisfied, he says. What is the Lord's satisfaction here? So, he does something, he is the puppeteer, he puts up the makeup, he makes you dance, he makes you play, finally he himself enjoys the show. So, whoever is doing that, he is only enjoying the fruit of action also.
So he said that Sakshi is only a witness and the doer is different from Sakshi. He is just a witness. Now this same type of concept is coming in Nirikshar Chanting, which says that there is a Prakriti and there is a Purusha. The Prakriti and Purusha has no interaction. This Prakriti, because of some imbalance in this Prakriti, bare at equilibrium in the beginning, because of some imbalance, this whole creation starts. How do we counter, the Advaita counters that position?
I really don't know because I have not studied Sankhyan philosophy. But one thing we know is that in Sankhyan philosophy, they talk about this tattva of Prakriti and Purusha, all the 25 things that they talk about. But they are talking about Prakriti independently existing out of Purusha also. That means, but in Vedanta philosophy, we don't talk like that. Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti. Prakriti, which is the same powerful and everything that it is animating, all that is given. But Prakriti is the aspect of Shakti of the Supreme Lord. That is how we say it. So therefore, there is no second entity here in that sense.
Well, sir,
Yeah.
Roop, Ras, Gandha, Sparsh, Path. These five only enjoying by the body, not the witness,
Correct.
not the power.
Correct.
If we go in that way, whatever is going on in my body, it is the external body only.
Right.
Mind, intellect, etc.
Right.
Including my anger.
Right.
See, they are only enjoying it or feeling sorrow.
Right.
I am not involved in it.
Correct.
That should be the way of witnessing.
That's right. That's the way. All my instruments, their respective field of activity they are doing, I have nothing to do with it. This is the way. So this should come in the Anusandhan. So as and when you are doing it. So in the fourth chapter, one of the best interpretations of Swamiji in that portion of Gita where he talks about the 12 yajnas, that's what he says here. When you are into a perception also, that perception should trigger a switch in you in such a way that it is able to lead you to that consciousness. So the way to do it is, instead of getting involved in the perception, you immediately, that switch should make you think of what makes you perceive. What makes you perceive. So if you are able to do like that, you can use each and every experience in the world to practice this Sakshi Bhavana. But as we said, it is for the introverted people, it is for a somewhat highly evolved people, but this is the technique. This is the way.
So if you are recalling some past event or in maybe
If you are calling?
if you are recalling a past event, does that come under, like in a present day moment, if you are seeing something, it is called pratyaksha, means you are seeing everything. But if you are recalling a past event, maybe something like a dream or in your childhood you did something or another, then is that called a pratyaksha?
No, that has nothing to do with pratyaksha. Pratyaksha we say talk with reference to direct perception, pratyaksha, with every eye. That means what it means is it is a pramana for knowledge. In that sense we take it. Pratyaksha means what you perceive directly. So what you see mentally in your eye, which is your past events or something, that's not called pratyaksha. It is what you use as sense to absorb the world from outside. That's called pratyaksha. Yes.
If you're working for a company, then maybe try to work with without the kartritva bhava, and the fruit doesn't come to us, but will it come to the company?
Yeah, it will come to the company. Don't worry. Don't worry. Only if the fruit comes to your company, it's good for our institution also. So may the fruit come to your company. No. See, the thing is, in terms of what we understand at the relative level, even at the level of teamwork in company, the individual in what is that? The Fayol's management principles, right? 14 principles he has given. In first one is the subordination of individual interest to team interest. This is what actually has been given in Bhagavad Gita. So in the spirit of yajna, if you are able to dissolve yourself into even a larger circle, to that extent it is a lack of kartrutva bhavana, to that extent your ego is dissolved. No doubt, my company is also ego, but myself is a more powerful ego. It's more concentrated. When you expand a little bit, it becomes my company, then it can be my community. There also my country, if you say India, if you work for, there also ego is there, but it is loosened. So you are able to identify with others. So the result that accrue is just not for you, for everybody, others' joy is also your joy, like that it comes. Therefore, the moment you are able to work selflessly with reference to even a relative ideal in a company, Swamiji often says in the seminar that a salesman can think in terms of working for his salary or working for the sales of the company. Work is the same, result is the same, but the attitude is different in both. The moment you work just for yourself, you are actually lowering your status and you will be tossed by that fruit, whether you get a little less salary or more salary. In fact, Gita says, Kripana Palahetavaha. Kripana palahetavaha means pitiable indeed is that person who works for the fruit. You have to just pity that person. He says because he is lowered his prestige, that which he is supposed to be working at a very high level, keeping his thought aloft at a high ideal, he is actually working at a high level. A person who is, let's say, working in a factory, what are you working for? If you ask, he can say, just to feed my family, I have to get this money. Or he can think in terms of, I'm producing this nut and bolt which is of a very high quality, which will be used in a great automobile or something like that. So I am contributing to that automobile. It's a different attitude that he has. Or I am producing the economy which is going to lift the whole nation. So in all the three cases, the action is the same. The fruit that is, you are going to get the salary, that is the same. But what really determines the spiritual aspect of it is with what attitude you do. So when you are able to work with the totality here, which is the company from that point of view, that will gain. So in the Yajna, what he says, you come around the fire and you oblate, pour the oblation into the fire. In Yajna, there are two aspects, essential aspects of every Yajna. There is an offering and there is a kindling. So even in the modern Yajna that we do, when I say modern Yajna, the traditional Yajna done in the modern world, modern way, modern times, people do come, gather there, they have a sanctity towards it. But they may talk politics there, they may be gossiping there. But finally, when what they see is the Purna Ahuti happens, when the finality comes, when everybody has to take in a quantum of grain or ghee or something, or they touch the person who is pouring into it. At that one point of time, it could be for a minute or half a minute, they forget everything and they pray to God, close their eyes, and then afterwards also they will continue with their regular gossips, everything. So at the time of oblation also here, you are saying that it is not for me. You close and think of God. The mantra also says, Indraya Swaha, Indraya Idam Na Mama. This Na Mama comes always. It's an integral part of this. So I offer to Indra, not for me. I offer to Varuna, not for me. This is the mantra also that is being said there. So therefore, at the time of oblation, there is a conscious practice that it is not for me. So therefore, when you are offering that service like that to whether you are a computer operator, whether you are whoever, you are a director or you are a salesman, you offer that into that fire of the kund of the office itself. Then what happens? Who blesses? What grows? The profit potential grows. So when the company grows, automatically you also grow. That is there. So therefore, individual growth is not divorced from the company's growth. Individual's growth is part of it. It is, you are absorbed in it. You are a subset of it. But your vision is company. What you are thinking about yourself is company. So therefore, that grows your thought internally. So that is how you expand your consciousness. This is in fact the spirit of Yajna. Yajna is translated as sacrifice in English, but the essential meaning of it is actually expansion of your consciousness this way. Whatever in the three states is the object of enjoyment, enjoyer and enjoyment, distinct from them I am witness, pure consciousness and ever auspicious. We'll chant mantra 19 twice.
मय्येव सकलं जातं मयि सर्वं प्रतिष्ठितं मयि सर्वं लयं याति तद्ब्रह्माद्वयमस्म्यहम् मय्येव सकलं जातं मयि सर्वं प्रतिष्ठितं मयि सर्वं लयं याति तद्ब्रह्माद्वयमस्म्यहम्.
From me alone all has risen. In me all exists. In me all dissolves. That non-dual Brahman am I. From now on till the end of Kaivalya Upanishad, or at least this end of this part, which is up to mantra 23, these 5 mantras, it is not much to be understood at the intellectual level alone. Of course, there are pointers, there are Vedantic concepts you will understand. What has to be said with reference to understanding of concepts and our sadhana, beginning from Shraddha, Bhakti, Dhyana till now, has been covered. Now it is just summarizing verses which talk about certain declarations. That's about all. So these verses, these mantras have to be more felt. You have to sort of live through these verses. There is a rhythm in these verses. It is, the Guru is talking from the point of view of self-realization. He is talking from the point of view of Anubhava. We said in the 16th mantra, the Tattvam Masi, that equivalent of that is given, where he is telling the student as it were that you are the self. And how to practice that is given in the 17 and 18. Only by practicing you are going to remove all your bondage, he said in 17. And the actual practice, he said, Tebhyo Vilakshana Sakshi. I am different from all this. I am the Supreme Self, he said in the 18th mantra. And then here now he says, Tad Brahma Dvayam Asmyaham. Tad Brahma, that Brahman, Advayam Asmi, that non-dual Brahman, I am. This is coming from the deep Anubhava of the Guru, the deep Anubhava of the self-realized person. The mantra says, from me all have arisen, all are born, in me all exist, and into me all dissolve. I am that Brahman. I have nothing to do with all these disturbances that are happening here. So what he talked about from the individual point of view in the last mantra, Bhokta, Bhogyam, in the the experiencer, experience, and the experienced, subject-object relationship, you can view it from the totality picture here, macrocosm here, in terms of what is happening with reference to the absolute creation and the absolute sustenance of the universe, and absolutely where it dissolves down. It is all, wherever it is happening, I am that. I am that. Tat Brahma. So the common example given here is of that of ocean and the waves. The waves arise from the ocean, they exist in the ocean, and then they go back into the ocean. The waves are the effect, and the unaffected cause is the ocean. This example is comparable in more than one ways. First is the picture that you give of totality with reference to what has been coming out as a manifestation. What is a wave compared to the ocean? Okay, not just one wave. Imagine all the waves that are happening in all places of the earth with reference to the totality of the ocean. Some disturbance in the surface, that's about all. It is some disturbance in the surface. But how can we even measure the vastness and depth of the ocean and compare it here? It is infinite. Ocean is infinite, as it were. So therefore, from that totality, which is whatever it is, that unmanifest reality, all that is coming out, existing and going back in the cycle here, it is like that. It is a small disturbance at the surface. And I have nothing to do with any of these disturbances. I am that deep, deep ocean which is absolutely Chinmatroham Shada Shiva. That is always ever calm and ever auspicious. I am that only. Second subtle point of this example is, even as we perceive the wave, we understand that even if it is existing in the form of the wave, it is still ocean only. It is just a stupid notion that the wave may consider itself to be separate from ocean. That wave may consider itself to be something different from the ocean. But even as a wave has an individuality, considers itself separate from the ocean, the reality is not so. So even as I am thinking that I am an individual who is different from the supreme reality, in truth that is not so. Therefore, this is the wrong notion that we need to wipe off from our system. That's all it is. It is a hypnotic state that we have gone into, and by whatever attachment that we have got into, that we believe ourselves to be something which we really are not. That is why the solution for this is Nothing except knowledge. Nothing. The absolute thing can come only by knowledge, which has been emphasized in mantra 9 of the same Upanishad. There's no other way. There's no other way except by knowledge. It is our delusory notion that needs to be removed. So therefore, as and when you see any manifestation, you only think it in terms of that it is the Supreme Self only. In fact, this comes emphatically in probably the next verse. Yes, in the next verse he says, I am Vishwamaham Vichitram. When I say I am, I said English I am. Aham Vishwamaham Vichitram. I am this pluralistic phenomenon. This pluralistic phenomenon which is said to, come out of Brahman, exist in Brahman, go back into Brahman, etc. That which is talked about as universe and Brahman are from your standpoint only. But actually, I am the supreme universe also. So, which is what is said in the Vedanta treatise as the world is not really created by God, but world is God, which he emphasizes in the next mantra. So, in this mantra, just remember this example of ocean, that the waves arise, stay on and get back into the ocean, but I have nothing to do with the waves. I am the real ocean. This is the thought. And he uses the word Advayam here. Advayam means non-dual. Brahman alone is, this is the principle of Advaita Vedanta. And the word Ekam is given to emphasize that. But this word, when it's added with that, it has a more emphasis. It's a very great word. That's why the philosophy is also called as Advaita philosophy. There's no second, Advayam. So that Brahman without a second, whatever is there, whatever that supreme consciousness is, I am. Now from the practical level again in this mantra, to the extent that our vision expands, to that extent the plurality sinks. Now we are having a pluralistic notion. To say that I am Brahman is the ultimate Anubhava. So as we discussed with Vedika's question in the last mantra, it is the same thing. To the extent that you are able to expand your consciousness, to that extent you will be able to understand the unity. The plurality sinks there. From me alone all has risen, in me alone all exists, in me all dissolves, that non-dual Brahman am I. Yes sir.
So you spoke about nature having provided for everybody, and you spoke about a wave which is actually a ripple in the complete depth of the ocean. So is it not that we want to believe in this, otherwise the whole world order will get into trouble? Because at our level, maybe all living above the sustenance level, there's always more.
Sorry, 1 minute before that. You mean to say that the whole world will get into trouble if we don't believe it that way?
No, because it is important that this kind of a thinking is there, otherwise it is not good for the society. It's very important that...
World we are saying as a speck in the ocean, you are talking about society which is beyond the world, is it?
So what I mean is, it is important to believe that God has provided for everything. So let me just complete this whole thing.
Yeah.
Because it's important that otherwise the whole world order will get into a bit of a trouble. So at our level, maybe we all living above the sustenance level, so our sorrow is more if somebody leading a better materialistic life than us. But there are still over 1 billion people who do not have 2 square meals. So if you connect it to karma, fine. That the karma is there, then that is what they are. But then the fact of the matter is, the God is not provided for them. So it is again, if you connect it to karma, as I said, then it's very easy to explain that. But then has nature provided for everything?
Nature has provided, one of the famous Gandhiji's quote is that it has been provided for everybody's need, not for everybody's greed. It is, what is the proportion of human population to the entire animal and grass and other trees and every population? 7 billion, even if you take into account the human population. Now what is the proportion?
Yeah, but if you compare it
what is the proportion?
It is 20%.
Huh?
If you compare it to mankind, it is 20%. If you compare it to complete...
No, 20%. What is 20%?
The people who are still living below the system.
No. First answer with reference to totality.
It's insignificant.
Insignificant, infinitesimal, zero as such. Now, who is providing for all the other creatures? Who is providing?
So I don't know if they also been provided for. I'm not really sure.
Then watch only National Geographic and Animal Planet. There is a lot to learn there. There is a lot to learn there actually. None of the fish anywhere in the ocean, of course in a summer time the elephants may go here and there in search of food. In drought times they will go here. It's not that. They will find a mate. They will find this thing. If two whales fight for the same female, if one is not able to go, other is not going to repent and commit suicide. It is going to get its own partner a little mile away. This is how it is. The whole system is there. Now what is the total number of all creatures, which is animals, plants, grass, insects, microbes, even the microbes that is living within you? If you take everything into account, 7 billion population is infinitesimal or practically zero. If that supreme power which has provided for everyone and is actually perfectly functioning in an order to provide for everyone, and it is actually happening, it is not a big deal to take care of 7 billion more mouths. So who is actually creating a problem? Who is creating a problem is this person who seems to have an intellect but who is not in tune with their nature. In other words, if you are able to assert your ego in such a way that you are going to be not in alignment with the nature, it is you who are responsible for the problems. So you can connect it to karma not just at the individual level, at the national level, at the community level, at the society level. So karma is not a theory that need to be dismissed in this way. But it is a different thing that if you say that a poor person is suffering because of his karma and you won't do anything, then you are committing some other karma there. We are not talking about that. But it is, everything is actually, in fact, even if you take poverty and other thing, with reference to the human population, man-made policies and ideas which are happening, so many changes and creations and new thoughts and ideologies have come in last century, last 100 years, 150 years. Birth of Karl Marx and communism and socialism, all these things, if you can take, or industrial revolution, whatever, capitalism, all the things that you take into account. What is this 3 centuries in the history of humankind? Have we known in any time, at least a recorded history or anything? Famine has come. Okay, it is not that a year may be there without rain, a year may be there without proper sunshine, whatever it is, that type of a thing can be there. But again, you have to relate it with to the type of life and lifestyle that the people who go on there. Only if you know the totality, you will be able to even relate to karma. But if you take otherwise, this world which has been beautifully functioning for billions of years, you want to confine it to 2 centuries and then draw up a conclusion that God has not provided for everybody? That is a very erroneous conclusion. That is a very, very limited point of view. Think about it as such. We'll conclude with the bhajans here.
Ananda Govinda Radhe Gopala Jayananda Mukunda Ananda Govinda Radhe Gopala Govinda Madhava Gopala Keshava Govinda Madhava Gopala Keshava Giridhari Giridhari Jaya Radhe Gopala Giridhari Giridhari Jaya Radhe Gopala Ghanshyam Shyam Shyam Jaya Jaya Radhe Gopala Ghanshyam Shyam Shyam Jaya Jaya Radhe Gopala Jayananda Mukunda Ananda Govinda Radhe Gopala Jayananda Mukunda Ananda Govinda Radhe Gopala Gopala Govinda Madhava Gopala Keshava Govinda Madhava Gopala Keshava Gopala Keshava Gopala Keshava.
Poornam Adah Poornamidam Poornat Poornamudachyate Poornasya Poornamadaya Poornamevavashishyate